Pat Riley said the Miami Heat roster would look different in 2025-26, but through the first 2 days of free agency, not much has changed. The Heat brought back Damian Mitchell on a 2-year, $24 million deal, and also added a possible bench piece in Simone Fontecchio, who they acquired as part of a sign-and-trade move that sent Duncan Robinson to the Detroit Pistons. With fans hopeful that a big move is coming after missing on Kevin Durant, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Gary Trent, among other potential targets, the Heat have been linked to one of the biggest names available. As reported by the Miami Herald's Barry Jackson, the Heat are eyeing Damian Lillard, who the Milwaukee Bucks waived in an unexpected move. Now, this isn't the first time that the Heat have been linked to Lillard before, but unlike last time, he is a bit of a special case. Lillard is nursing an Achilles injury that may keep him out of all, or at least most of next season. Regardless, Jackson did say the Heat like him, but they do have one issue. Golden State is interested in bringing Lillard back to his hometown region, the Bay Area. ESPN reports tonight, wrote Jackson. Lillard will have plenty of options. Heat likes Lillard but is out of roster spots at the moment. Lillard hasn't decided when to sign, could wait weeks or many months. Now, this could certainly change if Miami pulls off a trade of some sort, but since the Heat are hoping to contend now, bringing in Lillard cannot be the only move they make. This past season with the Bucks, the 34-year-old Lillard averaged 24.9 points, 7.1 assists, and 4.7 rebounds. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
It's official. Duncan Robinson, for the first time in what feels like forever, and for the first time since I was in high school, will not be a member of the Miami Heat. It was trending this way. The Detroit Pistons were the most linked team to Duncan in free agency following the Malik Beasley gambling announcement. And it's official. He signs a 3-year, $48 million deal with Detroit to be their shooter off of the bench. Or maybe he starts next to Cade Cunningham. But he gets a deal larger than I expected at $16 million AAV. And he is no longer a member of the Heat. It is a sign and trade. We'll talk about what Miami got in return here in a second. But I want to say thank you to Duncan Robinson. I don't make a lot of these videos often, but Duncan was an awesome player in Miami. And I want to show him some love because he was nothing short of an ultimate professional. He's the most prolific three-point shooter in Miami Heat history. And he might get passed by Tyler Hero, but Duncan was absolutely phenomenal as an undrafted free agent. Had great chemistry with Bam, and he has had so many big moments for the Heat. The number one that comes to mind is his performance on the road in Game 2 of the 2023 NBA Finals, where he willed Miami to a victory in the fourth quarter. Shout out Duncan. Spam your double nickels 55 down in the comments. As I mentioned, Duncan signing a 3-year, $48 million deal, so he gets $16 million per season with Detroit. They had to send out some salary in order to make this work in a sign-and-trade, and the only thing Miami is getting in return is a wing, Simone Fontecchio. There is absolutely no draft capital. Would I have liked to get second-round picks out of it? Yes, I would have, but there's not a lot of leverage here for Miami, so they get Fontecchio. They get something in return. This has a lot of different impacts on Miami. We'll see where that ultimately goes with his roster spot and if he can get some PT. He is a player who has averaged 7 points a game in his career. He's 6'7". He was born in Italy. He is a career 36% three-point shooter. He has been in the NBA for 3 years. He spent 1.5 in Utah, 1.5 in Detroit. He played 52 games as a rookie. He played 66 games 2 years ago. And now, this past season, played 75 games. And by the way, I know it was a very small sample size, but in the 16 games he played with Detroit, not this year, but the year prior, he actually averaged 15 points a night and shot 42.6% from three. He can certainly give you some good minutes off of the bench. He's a solid addition. He actually had 30 points against Serbia during the 23 World Cup playing for Italy. So he's certainly a guy that can make some noise. Like, if you're looking at this Heat roster, Fontecchio, I would rather have him get minutes over Kyle Anderson. Both of them are decent wings that can defend, can just be good connecting pieces. I will say he does a lot of the same stuff as Haywood Highsmith, and I'm unsure that that is something that is going to play a lot, which is a little nerve-wracking for me, to be honest, because it's like, Does he get PT over Haywood? I'm not so sure he does. Another aspect of Fontecchio is that he is an expiring contract. He has $8.3 million left on his deal, so that will be coming off of the books next season. I don't know if the Heat would extend him. I doubt they would. But the most kind of stunning, I wouldn't say stunning, but the most noteworthy part of this is not getting back Simone Fontecchio. It's actually that this move now puts Miami at the max roster spots. They had 14 roster spots going into free agency after Duncan Robinson exercises ETO. This now puts the Heat at 15. You can have 15 standard contracts on your roster. So if the Heat wanted to make another move, whether it is a signing, whether it is a trade, they cannot add anyone to the roster. If they make a trade, they have to send out more players than they are current or they would be getting back. Or if they want to sign a player, they have to waive someone. Do they waive anyone? I don't know. Like, they are about $6 million until the luxury tax, about $10 million until the first apron, it looks like. Like, Bobby Marks says projected salary $185 million right now. The threshold is $187.8, so you have $2.8 million until the luxury tax. First apron's at $195.9, so you have about $10 million before the first apron, and you have $22 million before the second apron. So that's where it stands financially for Miami. They're still underneath the luxury tax, but I know there's been a lot of rumors around Dame and other free agents. Those can't happen unless the Heat get rid of players on their roster currently. Make sure you are subscribed to the channels because when breaking news happens, we have you covered. We're actually filming this live on our stream as we were waiting for Duncan Robinson news to happen. Subscribe for daily coverage, live shows when big news drops. We are the #1 leader of Heat coverage on YouTube. Join the channel today. It's been a busy day in Miami, to be honest, because you've seen a lot happen around the NBA. We heard that the Duncan Robinson stuff was progressing towards him leaving the Heat. He ultimately does that with Detroit. But there was also just so much other news around the association. In a shocking fashion, Myles Turner signs with the Bucks. And then right after that, the Bucks waived Damian Lillard. And now Dame is a free agent. And we'll spend the rest of this show talking about Dame because the Heat have been the most linked team to Lillard to this point. I mean, Jake Fisher saying that the Heat were absolutely at the top of the Lillard list back 2 years ago before he got dealt. You would have to imagine that Miami is still going to be an option that Dame wants now. I can't imagine there won't be mutual interest there, and that was clearly the spot he wanted to leave Portland for. And I know a lot of people are going to be, I would say, divided on Dame. Will it be someone that Miami wants to go after? We'll see. Do Heat fans even want him? I'm open to it for a lot of different reasons because if you give him a 2-year, 3-year contract that is a relatively good price point for Miami, you can have him rehab this entire year with the Heat. He mentors Kasparas Jakachonis, and then you have a gap year. You create cap space for next season. You get a top 10 draft pick in all likelihood based off the roster you have now. You then have the assets and free agency to build a good roster around Dame, Hero, and Bam as they come back in 2026-27 season. You also have the draft capital to add young talent to your team. There's a lot of benefits to giving Dame a multi-year contract, letting him rehab in Miami, and then return to the court in a Heat uniform the years following. Anthony Chiang of the Miami Herald saying that the Heat are expected to have interest in Damian Lillard, and Lillard continues to have interest in playing in Miami, according to multiple league sources. So it seems more and more likely that there is going to be a conversation to be had between Damian Lillard and Miami in terms of maybe joining up. Didn't happen in 2023. That trade would have added him to the roster alongside Jimmy and Bam. Now he could be added to the roster to rehab and return to join Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. We will see. We will monitor the situation. but that is certainly the number one storyline around the Miami Heat following the Duncan Robinson sign and trade, where the Heat lose Duncan but net Simone Fontecchio. So let me know, before we sign off on today's show, do you want to sign Damian Lillard? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll be looking, and make sure you're subscribed as well, because tomorrow's video we will put out on more rumors.
Miami Heat did? Oh, no. The Miami Heat don't make any moves. They did absolutely nothing. Nothing at all happened that impacts them. At least not directly, because there was a lot of moves that the Milwaukee Bucks did today that really set the NBA world on fire, as it seems that they may have hit the panic button. So in today's video, we're going to get into all of that, along with how it impacts the Miami Heat, because there's a lot of connections going on there. Keep in mind, I'm recording this video at about 1:30 p.m. on July 1st, and there seems to be breaking news every minute, but it kind of slowed down a bit now, and a lot has already happened, so I kind of want to get into everything that went on today. It all started at about 11 a.m. when we got a Shams bomb. Is that racist? We'll go with Shams wow. I never know what to call them. When we got a Shams wow that Myles Turner was signing a deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. An absolutely stunning move, because I never thought that he would leave Indiana. I mean, just yesterday, we talked about the Heat's situation going into free agency. We looked at a list of all the free agents, and I just skipped over Myles Turner, because I literally said in that video, there's no way that he would leave Indiana. But here we are, less than 24 hours later. He's a Milwaukee Buck on a 4-year, $107 million deal, which is only about $26 to $27 million a year, which I think is great value for the Bucks. I mean, Myles Turner is still going to be getting paid less than a lot of starting centers. That's not a lot of money for someone of his caliber. So immediately I was thinking that, hey, maybe Myles just didn't want to go back to Indiana. But that wasn't the case. The reports came out that he actually did want to go back, but the Pacers refused to offer more than a 3-year deal of about $20 million a year. Apparently, they were worried about going into the luxury tax and passing the first apron, because they're a team that never does that. But that's stupid. You just made the finals. Now is not the time to sell. I saw Brian Windhorst say this on ESPN, and I completely agree. He said that if he was Siakam or if he was Halliburton, he would be absolutely pissed. How do you just make the finals? I know Myles Turner didn't play a lot in the finals, or especially Game 7, but he was a key component during that entire finals run. He's had a really great last couple of seasons there. And it's funny to think about that he was one of the main trade rumor guys for the last 5 or 6 years, and he never got traded. He stuck it out and was on a key component to a team that just, was one game away from the NBA Finals. And now he leaves in free agency after all that, because the Pacers didn't want to retain him. They didn't want to pay him to stay. And now, not only does he leave, but he goes to another team in the division that you guys just played in the playoffs. Oh, what a stupid, cheap move from the Pacers to not retain Myles Turner. I don't get that at all.
Hey, it's me, Pat Riley. And I've woken up from my slumber because I realized you didn't like the video and subscribe yet. So make sure to do that for me so I can get some rest. Thank you.
Now, for the Bucks side of things, I think it was a great pickup. They just lost Brook Lopez to the Clippers, a.k.a. the Los Angeles retirement home. I don't know what the hell that team is doing. But obviously, Myles Turner is a similar type of player in terms of a floor spacer that can also provide some nice size inside. And he's a lot younger than Brook Lopez. So from that aspect of things, I think it's a great pickup for the Bucks. Is it enough to convince Giannis to stay? Maybe, maybe not. But pretty much every move the Bucks make, in theory, their goal is to convince Giannis to stay. But I don't know if that'll be the case, because every other move they've made this offseason has kind of been blah. I mean, they're basically just bringing back everybody outside of Brook Lopez. They resigned Kevin Porter Jr. already. Decent player, terrible human being. They resigned Taurean Prince, whatever. They resigned Bobby Portis, who I do like. He's the one guy I kind of wish the Heat maybe could have got in. They also resigned Gary Trent Jr. on a cheaper contract. So It's like their whole plan was, oh, we promised Giannis that we're going to make our roster better. Also, the Milwaukee Bucks re-sign everyone that was there last year. After the Myles Turner trade, really the only different thing they did is they signed Gary Harris. These are a bunch of nothing moves. And then they did have another trade that just completely stupid to me. They also traded Pat Connaughton and 2 second-round picks for to the Charlotte Hornets for Micic. Why the hell would the Bucks do this? I don't know. Both Micic and Connaughton, they basically have the same contract. They're both expiring deals. The only thing the Bucks do in this trade is shed about $1 million because that's how much more Connaughton is getting paid than Micic. So maybe they needed to do this in order to clear up more cap space for Myles Turner. But trading 2 second-round picks to shed $1 million, that's a steep asking price. That is not good value for the Milwaukee Bucks. So I don't know what the hell they were doing there. But of course, that wasn't even the main crazy thing that happened after the Myles Turner signing. Because it was only 15 minutes later that we got another Shams wow, which was Damian Lillard was being released by the Milwaukee Bucks. I guess this is something the Bucks definitely had to do in order to retain Myles Turner. I thought it was a bit of a harsh move to let Dame go after the hell, season that he had last year with the blood clots, and then he came back, tried to play through it, and then he tore his Achilles, and just an overall gut-wrenching season for him. You hate to see it. I know Mark J. Spears tweeted out that we shouldn't feel bad for Dame. Sort of a win-win situation since now he gets his money and he gets to become an unrestricted free agent to go wherever he wants to go. I don't necessarily agree with that because Mark mentions that Dame would have opted out of his player option next year too. I don't think so. It would have been about $50 million. I could have seen Dame taking that, especially now that he got injured. But I guess right now, in this situation, he didn't know he was going to get waived. But now that he is waived and stretched, he still gets all that extension money just over the course of 5 years instead of the 2 years that his original extension was. Plus, of course, like Mark mentions, he is a free agent, so he can sign somewhere else and then continue to stack on more money on top of that. I also did see a Sam Amick article that says, that his sources told him that Dame is happy with the situation because now he can sign with a contender of his choosing. So I suppose Dame is happy, so I'm glad it ended up all working out for him. As far as Giannis, a lot of people initially saw this and said, oh, well, Giannis definitely isn't leaving now because now he's happy. I didn't really see it that way. I mean, yeah, Myles Turner was a good pickup. It's the only pickup that the Bucks did. But even then, it's not like he's Drew Holiday or Damian Lillard, the last two guys that the Bucks signed, the last couple of times when they had to convince Giannis to stay. They made those major moves, and Giannis is like, okay, I'm happy now. I don't think Myles Turner is that. And then on top of that, as Yossi Goslin points out, the Bucks waiving Dame, that means that they now have $22.5 million of dead money on their books for the next 5 seasons, meaning that every year for the next half a decade, they just have $22.5 million going to nothing. That's clearly very, very bad when you talk about the future of building your team. That's just a terrible thing to have. I mean, from a Heat perspective, I remember how much it hurt when we stretched Ryan Anderson. Y'all remember that back in the day? And that was just, we had to stretch $5 million a year over 3 years. I remember we also traded Josh McRoberts for A.J. Hammonds and then waived and stretched him. And that meant we paid him $1 million over 4 years. But these are small amounts of money compared to the $22.5 million of dead money the Bucks are going to have for 5 years. That's just insane. So I couldn't see why Giannis would be thrilled knowing that. And then, sure enough, it was about 20 minutes after Dame was waived, Chris Haynes came out with a report that said this: Milwaukee Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo is not pleased with the team's decision to waive Damian Lillard. And that is the one that got everybody going crazy. I did see Barry Jackson send out a tweet shortly after this saying that ESPN is refuting this report and that Giannis is actually happy. But I haven't seen any quotes or clips of that report. I certainly haven't seen Chris Haynes recant his statement. So I don't know who to believe because Haynes is a very reputable reporter. He's also Dame's close friend, which kind of makes this whole thing weird. Is he trying to save face for Dame, saying that, oh yeah, my friend Dame, Giannis is not happy, he's waived? Because that would be just kind of a weird situation. Or is ESPN trying to save face for the Bucks? They have a lot of reporters over there that are puppets for these franchises, and maybe the Bucks sent out, hey, no, Giannis is happy, because they don't want to lose all leverage in a potential Giannis trade. So who knows who's trying to save face for who here? We'll just have to wait and see how the Giannis stuff plays out. Barry Jackson did note that the Heat are not actively pursuing DeMar DeRozan or Jonathan Kuminga as of right this second. And I suppose that's because, as we heard yesterday, the Heat are still holding all their chips for Giannis. So it would make sense even after today, now that there's some more Giannis rumblings, why the Heat might stay even more quiet in the free agency or trade market. But to me, it's still kind of dumb to make Giannis your plan A. It's just such a pipe dream when you compare our assets to the assets of the Rockets or the Spurs. The Heat virtually have no chance unless Giannis says Miami or Miami only. And then even then, the Heat just have like a 1% chance. So kind of a stupid plan for me, but that is the Heat's plan as of right now. As far as Damian Lillard, though, that is a guy I do believe the Heat have a real shot at. Anthony Chang and Tim Reynolds, a couple of local reputable reporters, they are noting that the Heat have interest in Damian Lillard. I just saw Chris Haynes on NBA TV say the same thing. He said Dame might also have some interest in the Heat, as well as a potential return to Portland. I know a lot of Heat fans are excited about that. Even Will Manso tweeted out that it would be a no-brainer for the Heat to get Damian Lillard. And I don't really agree with that. I don't understand why so many people are in on that. There's a lot of reasons now why I don't think the Heat should pursue Dame, unlike a couple of years ago, because now Dame is older. The Heat are not a contender anymore. They don't have Jimmy Butler. And Dame is hurt. He's going to miss an entire year. Can you get Damian Lillard on a 2-year contract for cheap? And then maybe you'd have Dame on a good value contract a year from now when he's healthy? Maybe. And maybe at that point, the Heat are in a more competitive spot. Maybe we're able to trade for another nice player by then, or use some of our cap space in 2026 to get a pretty decent player, and then you bring them in. You bring another first-round pick in next year. You bring in Damian Lillard, and now you have a team that can maybe make some noise in the East a year from now. I don't know, but I think Dame might just be better off staying a free agent for this year, rehabbing, collecting his $22.5 million, and then signing a bigger deal next offseason when he's actually healthy. But then again, how big a difference is that going to make if Dame holds out for a year? Because who's going to give him a big contract next year when they haven't seen him play basketball in a year? So if that's the logic, I could see him saying, hey, let me just sign a 2-year deal right now. That way I could rehab with whatever team I end up signing with. So I could see it going either way, truthfully. Either way, though, Dame does get paid. He's going to get his money whether he signs with someone else or not. So that's where things stand for the Miami Heat today. Nothing changed since yesterday. Still got one roster spot open. Still got $14 million under the luxury tax. They're still actively shopping Andrew Wiggins and Terry Rozier. And, of course, they have to decide what they want to do with Duncan Robinson, whether that's re-sign him or find a sign and trade for him to go elsewhere. Or maybe he just leaves on his own. I don't know.
The Miami Heat have emerged as a potential destination for superstar guard Damian Lillard following the Milwaukee Bucks' unexpected decision to waive him on Tuesday. According to a tweet from ESPN insider Tim Reynolds, the Heat are expected to show interest in the 7-time All-Star, who now holds significant leverage in deciding his next move after the Bucks stretched his remaining $113 million contract to acquire Myles Turner. Lillard's release comes after a challenging tenure with the Bucks, where a torn Achilles tendon sidelined him, prompting the Bucks to pivot their roster strategy. Now a free agent with no rush to decide, the 34-year-old guard can rehab and choose his destination on his own terms. For the Heat, this presents a golden opportunity to bolster their lineup with a proven scorer who averaged a remarkable 32.2 points per game during his final season with the Portland Trail Blazers in 2022-23. Lillard, widely regarded as one of the greatest scoring point guards in the league, has failed mightily in the playoffs, boasting a dismal 24-44 throughout his career, along with 0 NBA Finals appearances. The Heat, a storied franchise that's achieved boatloads of success under President Pat Riley and head coach Eric Spoelstra, could be the perfect team for Lillard to pursue a championship with. As the basketball world watches, Lillard's next chapter could reignite the Heat's championship aspirations. Fans and analysts alike are buzzing with anticipation. Will the Heat land Lillard and re-emerge as contenders in the Eastern Conference? And you, fan, what do you think about Damian Lillard's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.